understanding that each no I have encountered didn't really signify a complete rejection, but rather, not right now, or not this way, or not with this person. And having this perspective really built a lot of resilience and drove me to seek alternative paths and maybe look for different partners who shared a common vision and values.
How can embracing the practice of holistic nursing bring about change in myriad aspects of our troubled healthcare system? And how do we bring about a vision of the true intersection of nursing and holism? Let's talk all about it with Sarah Weaver, a holistic nurse and functional medicine nurse practitioner, right here on episode 493 of The Nurse Keith Show. Hey there, this is Nurse Keith. This podcast is always about you and your personal and professional development, your career, and the healthcare system writ large. And I'm here to share education, ideas, and informative interviews with some of the most inspiring people from the worlds of healthcare, nursing, entrepreneurship, and beyond. I love having you along for the ride, and I thank you so much from the bottom of my nurse podcaster's heart for being part of the growing Nurse Keith Nation. If you'd like to help other people find the show, of course, you can leave a rating and review, especially over on Apple Podcasts. That's super helpful. And you can consider becoming a patron at patreon.com, patreon.com/Nurse Keith. As little as $2 a month really helps keep the lights on over here at the Nurse Keith Show. And if you want to pledge a little more, I have some surprises and gifts to send you in the good old U.S. Postal Service if you would like to partake. And no matter how you're interacting with the Nurse Keith Show, I thank you and appreciate you. You can go to nursekeith.com to find the show notes for this episode. And the show notes are always also in the podcast app where you happen to be listening on your smartphone or other device. And as I said, we're here today with Sarah Weaver. She is a functional medicine nurse practitioner, a holistic nurse, and she is the coordinator and instructor at the Holistic Nursing Certification Prep course that we're going to talk about. And Sarah, it's an honor, it's a privilege to have you here on the show. We had a great chat just a week or two ago. And my first question for you is this. What is holistic nursing? How would you describe it and define it? And why is embracing holism so crucial right now in the history of our profession and the state of our current healthcare system?
Well, that's such an important question. And thank you for having me on the show, Keith. So holistic nursing is really at its core understanding that the most important thing that you can bring into a room when you're interacting with a client is yourself and your presence and seeing that client mind, body, and soul. It's really integrating the best parts of the medical system with the best parts of integrative medicine. So we're taking all of the science and all of the heart and throwing it all together to create an environment where people can heal.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we're after, right? And first, I just want to ask you, how long have you been a nurse and how did you start out in the field?
So I have been a nurse since 2006, and I had a little bit of a winding path in my nursing career. I didn't actually end up going to college right out of high school. I ended up joining AmeriCorps, which is a domestic Peace Corps, and did some projects related to natural disasters, infrastructure improvement, environmental stewardship, conservation, and urban development. And that really lit me on fire for helping, just being in a helping profession. After that, I went and lived in Americus, Georgia, in a community called Koinonia Partners.
I've been there.
And that was you have?
I've been to Koinonia. Yeah, tell us.
That's Yeah. So, That is a Christian community founded in 1942 and was really centered on the principles of nonviolence and racial justice. It's a farm, and some of the significant initiatives that have come out of Koinonia were actually Habitat for Humanity. It was where it was serviced, and where Millard Fuller used it as a testing ground for a lot of the housing that he later used in places like Africa and South America. So that really made me think about how can you shake up these systems and create, even within the system, a better version of life and health and wellness. Um, so I was married early, and at the age of 22, as a new mom, I found myself with some pretty significant postpartum depression. And, reflecting on that from the lens of functional medicine, I really understand now that it was a combination of some of the circumstances in my life, irritable bowel syndrome, hypothyroidism, and choosing to take the Depo shot, which is a birth control shot. And after that, I had this newfound respect for new mothers and was trained at the Seattle Midwifery School, which has now since merged with Bastyr University. And went into business as a postpartum doula in Seattle. And I was seeing a lot of moms that were in their late 30s, early 40s, and using IVF. I really loved guiding new families through the delicate dance of those early days with a newborn, and loved the combining the art and science of maternal child health with the compassionate support that a doula does. The emotional part of it, and then just the practical assistance in home and baby care. And wanted to take my practice further, and decided that's really how I got to nursing school, was all of these experiences and wanting to really make a career out of helping people and transforming lives.
Wow. That is an amazing story and a winding path. I had a winding path to nursing too. And we're going to have to talk offline about Koinonia and Americus, Georgia. I spent an amazing New Year's Eve at Koinonia a bunch of years ago, and I'll have to tell you the story about that sometime.
Well, we probably know people,
it's a
mutual
cool
people.
place, yeah. But anyway, I could talk about that for an hour. But you mentioned functional medicine. We've already mentioned holistic nursing and integrative medicine. You use that term as well. And yeah, there's a lot of different ways to bring these different threads together. And back not that many years ago, there was this whole thing about alternative medicine, and then it was considered complementary medicine. Like there's been these permutations of what that all means, and it can be confusing. And yeah, I do notice a little bit, increasing embracing of these different modalities, depending on where you are and what you're doing. But it sounds like for you, there's this focus on holistic nursing. And I know that you have this holistic nursing certification prep course, which I want to talk about in a little bit, helping people get ready to become certified. And that's super important. But what I want to know too is advocacy is really important. Like you were talking about working with clients as a doula and then figuring out how to integrate all these other ways of supporting new moms and new families. So why is advocacy so important, and why does it have to be integral to integrative practices and bringing advocacy into traditional medical settings? How do we do it, and why is it so important?
Absolutely. Thank you for bringing such an important topic. Advocacy in holistic nursing is a really powerful means between bridging traditional medicine practices and that more integrative approach to healthcare. And holistic nurses play a crucial role in this advocacy by first and foremost educating themselves on evidence-based integrative practices and understanding the unique needs and values of their patients. And when they're really armed with this knowledge, they serve as a voice for their patients and a liaison within the medical community, promoting the incorporation of holistic practices into the treatments for things like pain management, advocacy for nutritional counseling, and mental health support, which is huge right now. So I think the key for holistic nurses advocating effectively is this open communication and building strong trust-based relationships with their patients, their colleagues, and administrators, and taking the time to understand what the administrators are dealing with and their language, because that's going to make them a lot stronger in promoting their case. So by embodying this approach, holistic nurses not only advocate for the needs of their patients, but they pave a way for a more compassionate and comprehensive patient-centered healthcare system.
Well said. So, you mentioned being a doula, you mentioned working with new moms and new families. Have there been other moments in the course of your career that were like those crystallizing pivotal moments that made you realize how important it was to take a holistic approach and not just look at things through maybe just the traditional nursing lens, but there is a bigger, wider way of looking at this and drilling down into how do I really make this care the best possible care I can? What happened to you to kind of spur that on?
So, some of the ways that we as holistic nurses can really advocate in a very tangible initiative is one, championing research studies. Holistic nurses can initiate or participate in research studies, and this helps us understand and build that body of research and validate our practice. We have a lot of research on things like mindfulness, meditation, and yoga and nutrition, but there are a lot of opportunities to understand different modalities that are often very inexpensive to implement, for instance, like weighted blankets or aromatherapy and within a hospital setting. Another way to establish more advocacy is actually to think about creating respite rooms within hospital spaces. And this is actually not super expensive to do, but you do need to at least have a corner in the break room. And so this kind of initiative speaks volumes about the importance of calm and centered mind space in healthcare. It starts to shift the conversation about nurses caring for themselves. And it also helps boost morale and overall emotional and mental well-being for healthcare workers. I think integrating therapies like aromatherapy are also very useful. So one of the initiatives that we did was to use aromatherapy inhalers, orange, peppermint, and lavender. Now, this was in a very conservative hospital setting, but it turned out to be a very gentle and powerful way to enhance a healing environment. And I was kind of surprised at the units that really ended up taking them on. Like the ER was using them quite a bit, and the OR.
How interesting. Wow, that's cool.
Was using them quite a bit.
Yeah.
And then I think another way that we can really advocate is to start thinking about this concept of code lavender, which we ended up calling ours a holistic response team. But basically, it's like borrowing that term of code blue and addressing the acute needs of the staff. Ours was specifically the staff. Now, there are some that these programs that extend to patient stress, but this was a rapid response team that was specifically trained in holistic modalities such as stress relief techniques, healing touch, emotional support, connecting with different resources within the hospital, and helped provide immediate and compassionate care. And what we were seeing with that was after receiving this care, it was like 72% of the coworkers that were receiving the care reported that they would have called off if they had not had that intervention.
Wow, that's 72%.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. So there are some very tangible ways that we can advocate and start using the system. Most hospitals have foundations that you can apply to for these programs. Most of the larger hospital systems have research departments that can help walk you through how to do that myriad of paperwork and what that
Mm-hmm.
process is. So you just have to really have a vision and be willing to start tapping into the different resources that you might have on hand.
Wow, how interesting. So you saw this in action, right? You saw these sorts of interventions being put into place and you were involved in them, right? And did seeing it happen, like seeing and hearing that 72% of nurses would have called out sick if they hadn't received that holistic response from the rapid response team, did that just kind of like spur you on to realize just how important all this was?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think one of the things that we up against as far as barriers is this. I can't tell you how many challenges I've run up against implementing holistic nursing in hospital systems that have truly, Keith, tested my patience.
Mm-hmm.
But what ends up happening is it reaffirms my commitment to holistic principles. And one of the most formidable barriers has been an intricate maze of paperwork and red tape, which is a common reality in healthcare sector. And these administrative hurdles, while they're crucial for maintaining standards and accountability, they slow down the pace of innovation. And they can take the wind out of a very enthusiastic holistic nurse's sails.
I bet.
So understanding and accepting that as a challenge um, has been really essential in understanding that our path is not a sprint, but a marathon. And we have to continually step forward and have this larger vision of an integrative and compassionate healthcare. And within this face of the face of these obstacles, maintaining a sense of purpose and dedication becomes really paramount. So understanding that each no I have encountered didn't really signify a complete rejection, but rather, not right now, or not this way, or not with this person. And having this perspective really built a lot of resilience and drove me to seek alternative paths and maybe look for different partners who shared a common vision and values.
So my assumption is if you're working in a hospital system or maybe one standalone hospital and you want to initiate using essential oils, right? You want to use lavender, peppermint, orange, whatever, and you take it to administration and they're like, oh, we need a safety data sheet for each one you're going to use. And, there's just they keep throwing these things at you, these hoops you have to jump through to make it happen. So what I'm hearing you say is that you have to be resilient. You have to kind of be willing to pivot and maybe figure out who your allies, right? Because I'm sure you ran into people who were definitely not allies, and then you had to find who they were. Was that like part of the process of figuring out who were the amenable people to talk to?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
And so you mentioned pivotal moments.
Yeah.
And I think that one thing that was really pivotal for me was understanding the importance of mentorship. And I'm sure you see this with your coaching clients, Keith. This is one of those relationships where the magic happens. And mentorship is really about forming that nurturing connection that helps you grow and learn and find your direction. It's a source of wisdom, somebody who is probably a little older and a little more experienced than you that can help you understand the system a little better and has some wisdom to enrich your personal journey. And it's been so fundamental in my journey. So for me, I've had really wonderful mentors. I wish I could tell you about all of them, but I have two that have really helped me understand who I was as a nurse and helped me just really helped me grow personally and professionally. So one of them is Dr. Dave Johnson, and I was lucky enough to be assigned to Dr. Dave's as he was my nurse advisor in my undergraduate program. And I remember sitting in his office and the light filtering through and just feeling a little defeated. And he just had this way of cracking into me and understanding me. And he's been a part of my life for the last 20 years, and he's always been there to push me to the next level. And I'm so lucky to actually have him as an instructor in the holistic nursing certification prep courses. So our students get the opportunity to learn from him as well.
That's great.
So Dave's history is he's a seasoned professor, and he has an extensive background in healthcare and organizational development, leadership, team dynamics, mindfulness, and resiliency. And he started the EAP program at our local hospital system. Back when EAP was kind of a new concept, Dave was a pioneer.
And that's Employee Assistance Program.
Yes, a employee assistance program. And so Dave was always there to help me sort through things like implementing the group visits in the integrative medicine office that I worked in, helping me navigate the system for the aromatherapy inhalers. I actually had to go to the IRB board for one of the studies that I wanted to do with aromatherapy. And the reason was because orange oil was flammable, they put me in with the people that were presenting and doing chemotherapy.
Wow, interesting.
He also helped me think about, as an educator, how to create and execute holistic nursing training opportunities, and was there to help us navigate the system and understand how to best do the holistic response team.
Wow. So he was very pivotal. So you've had pivotal moments, you've had pivotal people and pivotal experiences that have kind of spurred you on and helped you see how important this was and how you needed to keep pivoting and innovating in order to make what you wanted to bring to reality a reality. Because we all know that making change in the mainstream healthcare system it's a slow moving ship. And if you want to turn the ship, it takes a long time. So there's always going to be somebody saying, wait a second, orange, essential oil is flammable and we've got to bring in, so I really appreciate that. And I appreciate the tenacity it takes to be able to make something like this happen. And when we come back for the break, I want to talk about your holistic nursing certification prep course, because I think it's really important for nurses to know that they can get certified. And the certification process for any of these specialties can feel intimidating. So to have a course that prepares you for that process is really important. So I want to talk about that. And I want to talk more just about your journey and making that transition from traditional nursing into holistic nursing and entrepreneurship as well. So hang in there with us. We're going to come right back with Sarah Weaver. She's a holistic nurse and functional medicine nurse practitioner, and she's the coordinator and instructor at the Holistic Nursing Certification Prep course that we're going to talk about. So we'll be right back with the second half of the episode in just a few moments. Are you looking for a fascinating and novel way to empower and elevate your career? My wife, Shada McKenzie, is a gifted traditional astrologer and reader of the tarot with clients around the world, and she offers my listeners a 10% discount on their first consultation. Shada's approach to astrology emphasizes the integration of both modern and traditional techniques as they've been practiced for over 2,000 years, and she brings her sensitivity, life experience, and wisdom to every consult. Shada's work can reveal deep-seated patterns and unlock your potential to live a more meaningful personal and professional life. I and many of my clients have benefited greatly from Shada's mastery of these ancient tools, and if astrology is aligned with your personal belief system, I encourage you to consider reaching out to her at thecircleandthedot.com or email her at Shada, S-H-A-D-A, at thecircleandthedot.com. Remember to mention the Nurse Keith Show for 10% off your first consultation, and thank you. And welcome back to the second half of the episode. We're here again with friend of the pod and my friend and colleague, Sarah Weaver. And Sarah, prior to the break, we were talking about one of your very, very special mentors, Dr. Dave Johnson. And before we continue with more of the conversation, you wanted to tell us a little bit about another mentor who's really meant a lot to you on this journey. So can you share a little bit about her?
Well, I honestly, Keith, the Holistic Nursing Certification Prep program would not be here without Lord Lorenz Miller. So I had, when I had discovered the American Holistic Nurses Association, I really started to do my research around how can I bring a training to my local area, because I felt like education was the most important thing that could transform how nurses practice. And I ran across Lord Lorenz Miller, who at the time was the president of the American Holistic Nurses Association. And she has been very integral in integrating healing initiative healthcare model into several major healthcare systems. And at the time she was working in North Carolina at Missions Health, I emailed her and asked her if I could come down and see her. And she said yes. So I drove 8 hours to Asheville, North Carolina. And she not only did gave me an extensive tour of the program that she was doing, she actually gave me a jump drive with all of the structures of how to start a holistic nursing program in a hospital system. So she gave me the committee structures, she gave me the goals, she gave me everything I really needed to start talking the language around moving the system forward in a holistic nursing way. And the reason why I wanted to tell you this story, Keith, is because I feel like often what happens is we feel like we need to compete with each other. And when we really set that ego aside and allow ourselves to pour into each other, these really beautiful things happen. She also was the first author of the Holistic Nursing Certification Prep program and has given me pieces of it, which I've been able to take and make into a much more extensive program. Again, I can't emphasize enough how important it is to get yourself a mentor. Find those people that you want to be when you grow up and start talking to them.
Absolutely. I've talked about mentorship on the show and I've written about it. It's so important. I've had some mentors too, and there's no replacing a mentor. And there are some hospitals and healthcare facilities have traditional kind of like systematized mentor programs, but then there's also just the mentors you find on your own. And so there's the
Yes.
official and the unofficial way to go about finding a mentor. And we could do a whole
Yes.
hour conversation just about that process. But I'm
Yes.
really, I'm really curious about your journey. And, you know, it's thinking holistically and integrating holistic thought and practice into your personal life and your professional life it's a process, it's a journey. And I'm curious, how your values, the values that inform who you are as a person, how have your personal values and your journey shaped how you approach nursing now at this point in your career?
So I think that growing up in a household that deeply valued natural medicine fundamentally shaped my view of health and healing. My mom's approach to illness was opting for chicken soup, herbal tea, and just giving me a chance to rest over that immediate medical intervention. And it really instilled in me an appreciation for the body's natural ability to heal when it's given the right conditions. And I'm still so grateful that she didn't wreck my gut like a lot of people in my age group with the constant antibiotics
Mm-hmm.
and um, steroids that
Yeah.
were handed out like candy in the 90s. And I felt like going through nursing school, I definitely encountered a prevailing focus on conventional medicine that felt at odds with my holistic values. And the rigor and the demand of the curriculum, coupled with a clinical environment that seemed to prioritize medication over really looking at that whole person, made me feel alienated.
Mm-hmm.
And I think finding that community where I didn't really have to explain myself. I remember walking into the first holistic nursing conference and felt like I didn't have to explain myself. These people already understood who I was and even celebrated who I am as a nurse and what I bring to the table. I would say understanding, I leaned very heavily on the very core of what holistic health represents, balance and patience and the interconnectedness of all
Mm-hmm.
things.
Yeah.
And I have found a lot of solace and strength in the community that surrounds holistic nursing. And this underlying current, I think for me, it's really about kindness and innovation and understanding that every interaction that I'm going to have with my colleagues and my patients will be on this foundation of kindness and also understanding as a professional, I'm never going to know it all. I There will always be more to learn and more ways to grow. And so keeping that beginner's mindset is what keeps us creative.
Mm-hmm. Well said. And for nurses who are listening and they feel like you're speaking their language, like they're hearing about kindness and compassion and integrative medicine and functional medicine and holism, and they feel like you're talking the talk that they want to hear, right? But they're not quite sure what the process is if they want to become certified, like be a certified holistic nurse. Um, what are the main steps they have to undergo if they actually want to start the journey that you began and that you help people get certified in now? What do they have to do in order to move in that direction and kind of like jumpstart that part of their career?
So I think the foremost step in pursuing certification is understanding the specific requirements laid out by the American Holistic Nurses Credentialing Corporation.
Mm-hmm.
So they offer a couple of different kinds of certification. And there are basic, bachelor's, and advanced levels, and a couple of coaching certifications. So kind of depending on your education experience and where you want to go with your career. But for eligibility criteria, initially you have to be holding a current unrestricted RN license and have a minimum number of practice hours. And so for holistic nursing certification, you need at least 1 year of full-time holistic nursing practice or 2 years part-time. Now, I think sometimes people get hung up on this because they think holistic nursing practice is about the environment that they're working in, but you can practice in a holistic way in any environment. Like I said before, it's really about who you are and what you're bringing to the practice. You can be a holistic nurse in an ER or a surgery room or a camp. The other requirements that you need is 48 contact hours. And that's where programs like the Holistic Nursing Certification Prep course comes in. We actually offer 57.5 possible contact hours in our program, and the majority of them are online, which makes them very accessible, but we've blended it with this component of online meetings to keep you motivated and engaged with the instructors and with your cohort members. And it allows you to network with other holistic nurses that are on the same journey. So we don't only cover the basics of what you need to pass on the exam, but we also give you opportunities to explore evidence-based modalities, like some of the functional medicine pieces that I bring, like nutrition and environment and detox, some of the mindfulness strategies and addiction and abuse cycles that Dr. Dave teaches. And then our other instructor is Paula Thatcher, who is a bedside nurse in a rural hospital that serves a large Hispanic and Amish population. So it's kind of a different mix of people, but she teaches a lot of the real practical skills for taking your therapeutic communication to the next level, death and dying care, and mind-body practices. There is an application process. So once you've met all the prerequisites, you'll complete and submit an application along with any required documentation. And so you want to make sure that you are keeping a meticulous record of all your educational and professional experiences, and that will definitely streamline the application materials. And you're going to want to study for that exam, right? So leveraging those prep courses, study groups can enhance your understanding of some of those key concepts. And the AHNCC actually provides a variety of study materials, blueprints, and practice exams that can be pretty beneficial. The other part of the application process is reflection. So this not only enriches your professional experience, but also deepens your own understanding of the content in a really practical way. Now, holistic nursing is the only nursing specialty that really focuses on self-care, and we have to start with ourselves, right? So that is the basic journey for holistic nurses. And I would say if that feels overwhelming for you, just know that you don't have to bite it all off at once. You can just start kind of working through it slowly. It takes a while to get those contact hours.
Right.
And there are people in the community to help you through.
Right. Including your prep course, which we'll have a link to in the show notes, which I think is awesome. And, there are nurses out there who already use essential oils. Maybe they practice homeopathy. Maybe they see an integrative or functional medicine provider themselves personally or for their families and children. So there are nurses out there who already think this way. And it sounds like to me, becoming certified is just another step in sort of solidifying your understanding and learning a lot more about what holism is, what holistic practice is, and then learning also how to maybe integrate these into your actual nursing practice. And like you said, you can get involved or start your own research studies at your facility. You can integrate very small things like maybe using an essential oil for patients who are having, you know, anxiety or stress or whatever. So you can start super duper small and you don't
Hmm.
have to go straight to the certification course, or you can, right? So this can be a very integral, slow process throughout your career, or you can just go for it right away. And, you know, for nurses who want to jump into this journey, there's different ways in which they can do that, like I was just saying. So if someone wants to actually like get a job practicing holistic nursing or holistic medicine or integrative or functional medicine, can you give just a couple tidbits? We don't have too much time, but a couple tidbits of like, how do you actually move in that direction of like actually like working and making money practicing holistic nursing? What can you do?
Yeah, I think that one of the challenges is really understanding how to set up your own business. So I think that there are some opportunities for nurses within like coaching environments and
Right.
then different types of clinics that are focused on health and wellness. Those are always hitting up those local clinics and seeing if they need help. Putting your resume in, even if they don't have a job posting, because they might have one in a couple of weeks or a couple of months. I know a lot of holistic nurses that decide that really the way that they're going to go about it is starting their own business and pivot from a traditional practice to more of an entrepreneurial practice, or even
Mm-hmm.
have like a side practice.
Right.
So they might have their job at the hospital, but they're practicing Reiki or massage
Right. They've got a side
on the
hustle of
side.
some kind,
Yeah.
coaching, massage, etc.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's one way to go. And that can be challenging, but there's also a lot of fun that can be had along the way, starting a little side hustle or a bigger side hustle. And for you, merging the two, like figuring out how do I um, create a business and slowly like integrate that into my life, and maybe my job, like regular job, becomes the side hustle and my holistic practice becomes the main hustle. So does that happen to some people where they start out with something super small and then slowly they can shift it around where their holistic practice becomes their main thing?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think that can happen with some determination. And I think it's really important to, if that's your goal, to link in with some of the small business groups that are maybe in your community so that you can understand these pieces, like getting the word out about your business. That's something that I did. I went from working, I was a bedside nurse. And then when I was a nurse practitioner, or started off as a nurse practitioner, I worked in a traditional clinic. It was an integrative medicine clinic, but it was within a traditional health care system, and decided later to change my practice to a private practice. And I think in nursing, our primary focus is always the well-being of our patients. And as you venture into entrepreneurship, bringing that patient-centered perspective to the forefront of your business strategy will help build a clientele that respects you and is singing your praises from the mountaintops. I think that's one of the most important things that you can do, is just tap into that natural networking. I can tell you, the person that is referred to me from a patient or another healthcare provider is so quick to sign up, whereas somebody who maybe found me through social media or a Google search has a lot more questions and often needs to sit and think about it for a little while before
Mm,
they move forward.
right. And I know you're the coordinator instructor at the Holistic Nursing Certification Prep course, and that's at holisticnursecertification.com. But I also know at Entourage Health, you provide concierge functional medicine for busy patients. And concierge medicine is sort of becoming a thing everywhere. It's really popular here, growing here at Santa Fe. And I know not everybody can afford it, but I think for certain people who can, concierge medicine is one way to go. And do you find that practicing in that way where you kind of have the full breadth and depth of what you can offer to clients, is that really satisfying for you that you can kind of go for it and practice the way you want to?
Well, yeah, Keith, I decided to do a membership model, which I think is really a lot more affordable for people. They're often kind of surprised to find out what my membership fees are,
Mm-hmm.
but it is very satisfying because I know my clients so well. And what ends up happening is I end up taking care of the entire family.
Hmm.
And I think to me, that is the most beautiful thing because when families are in it together, then that's where the real change happens, right? I get to spend 2 hours with an initial consult and then an hour for follow up. And all of my clients have a direct line to me. So that helps so much when they're feeling overwhelmed. They're at the grocery store on Saturday and they're not really sure if this thing goes with the diet that is a little different, a little weird that we've discussed, but they haven't really been able to embody yet. Or they're feeling like they're having some reactions from their detox and they're not sure if they should stop their supplements
Mm-hmm.
or if there's something else that we can do. So just watching that transformation happen within my clients from going super fatigued and feeling hormonal and their mood is out of control to really being able to show up in their lives and be this best version of themselves for themselves, for their children, for their spouses, for their community is phenomenally rewarding.
That sounds
And yes, as an
amazing.
entrepreneur, it's challenging, right?
Mm-hmm.
But those are the things that keep me going.
Yeah. And from what you're describing, that satisfaction of working with clients in that way, this is a whole nother conversation, but I just want to throw this out there. There are so many nurses who become nurse practitioners, right? And then they go to work at a clinic or, some sort of facility, and they are square pegs being pounded into the round hole of seeing patients every 15 minutes. And all of a
Yes.
sudden, they went from maybe being an RN who could integrate a little bit of holistic practice here and there as a staff nurse. But then when they become a nurse practitioner, they are being pigeonholed into this little tiny slot of seeing patients every 15 minutes, bam, 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 all day. And then they're burned out as NPs and it's not what they wanted. So I've talked to a lot of people who've become NPs and I've told them, well, maybe you need to open your own practice if you're in a state where that's possible, or maybe you need to work with a supervising doc so that you can open your own practice and do what you want. So it sounds like as an NP, you're really happy with what you can do because you're practicing the way that you want to, aren't you?
Yes, yes, absolutely. I think it's when you have see things in a holistic way, it's hard to go back. And in fact,
Yes.
it is kind of soul crushing,
Mm-hmm.
and I have clients that come and complain to me about their primary care providers, and I have to give them a little, help the client see that provider with a little bit of grace because they're working in an impossible system.
They are. That's very true. So if you want to become an NP, you have to be realistic about what's going to be expected of you, unless you're going to work at a very special functional medicine or integrative medicine practice, or you're going to do it yourself, like Sarah is. And Sarah, I want people to go to holisticnursecertification.com, or there'll be a link in the show notes. Actually, they can just click in the show notes to go check it out and learn more about your certification program and the faculty and what they can learn. And become a certified holistic nurse if that's part of their journey. And I know you're slowly going to be integrating the other certification prep, like to become a board certified holistic nurse coach, right? That's going to be part of this at
Yes.
some point.
Yes.
So there'll be a lot more to learn. So holisticnursecertification.com. You're also on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. We'll have links there. And before we go, though, I have some questions I ask all of my guests, and I would love to throw these questions to you. Are you game for a little lightning round?
Yeah, hit them.
All
Let's
right.
do it.
So we're running out of time, so we'll have to be a little concise. But my
Okay.
first question for you is, how do you, Sarah Weaver, how do you define success? What does success mean to you?
Oh, that's such a good question. So I used to think success was kind of that American dream as a younger person, but now success is a slow morning. It's being able to hang out with my dogs at my lunch break and having really solid relationships with my children and the people in my immediate circle.
Wow, I love that answer. Oh my gosh. Okay. My second question, you've already named two people who are really important to you, but I always ask if there's one person who's inspired you in your life. They could be living or dead. They could be a really famous person or someone just from your personal life. Like, who's somebody who's like just super close to your heart?
Super close to my heart. Well, I think my children, my children
Mhm.
really inspire me to become a better person. When I look in their faces and after I've been grumpy with them or unfair with them, it's really made me understand the importance of embracing holism on my own level with doing the work around my nervous system, having my yoga practice, and having a self reflective practice with journaling and understanding my own trauma and how it changed my lens of being a mother.
Wow. That's an amazing answer. And that shows how this whole way of looking at the world holistically, kind of having a more integrated view of yourself and yourself in the bigger system in the world around you, how it's not just what you do at work, it's what you do at home. So I think it's a really beautiful example of how this work has changed you, don't you think?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
100%.
that's really lovely.
100%.
I really appreciate that. Okay, third question. Is there a book or even a movie, a film, something from the wider culture out there in the world that it doesn't have to be an absolute favorite, but it's one of those touchstones for you? It's like one of the things you go back to over and over that's just like one of those things that's just like central to who you are, has really affected how you live your life.
So I'm a recovering people pleaser.
Mm-hmm.
And one book that really changed my world was in my 20s, a friend handed me a copy of The Art of War.
Oh, yeah.
And it's the samurai text. And it was really understanding how to navigate situations. I think a lot of times the title is off-putting, but it really is about how to navigate situations in a way that avoids conflicts. Because that
Mm-hmm.
was the goal, was to avoid conflict, but get what you want out of life. And
Yeah.
so that text has been with me. I still have the copy he handed me 25 years ago. And it's something that I hit up on a regular basis.
That's a classic one by Suzuki, I think, if I remember
Yes.
correctly. Yeah, I remember that
Yes.
one. Yeah. Oh, that's a good one. Art of War. Okay. Last question. If you, Sarah Weaver, were named Queen of the World tomorrow and you had absolute power to do everything you wanted to do, what would be one of your first actions as queen to improve the lives of your subjects? Out of the box.
Oh,
First thing you'd want to do.
I think I would. That's such a good question, Keith.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I would teach everybody to regulate their nervous systems
Wow.
because I just feel like the rest of it would go so much easier. if everybody really could check in with themselves, understand their emotions, and understand that their emotions are not who they are.
Wow. So the whole
And
world would get certified in holistic practice. That's great. That's really lovely. A unified, worldwide, um, integrated nervous system would be amazing.
yes,
That's, yeah.
yes, everybody's in coherence. Everybody knows how to check in with themselves. Everybody knows when they need to
Wow.
take a break.
Okay. That would be amazing. Well, Sarah Weaver, this has been amazing. I really want people to check out the holisticnursecertification.com if they're even vaguely interested in becoming certified as a holistic nurse. And they can check you out on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. All the links will be in the show notes. This is really inspiring for me, and I think for many other people listening, about how holistic practice and just a holistic way of being can be integrated into our lives on every level, personally and professionally. And thanks for embodying that. And thanks for being a guide and mentor to so many nurses and individuals who want to embrace these principles. I think what you're doing out there in the world is really wonderful.
Well, thank you, Keith, so much for having me and letting me share my story. It's been a fantastic experience.
All right. Well, there you have it. Thanks for listening to this episode of Nurse Keith Show. The show notes are at nursekeith.com. They're also in the app where you're listening on your device. Remember to go to holisticnursecertification.com to check out what Sarah has to offer in terms of becoming a certified holistic nurse. I hope you feel uplifted and empowered from this episode. If you need personalized holistic career coaching, remember to check out nursekeith.com and Nurse Keith Coaching. Mention the show and get 10% off your first coaching package. And we are proud members of the Health Podcast Network at healthpodcastnetwork.com. And we are adroitly produced by the amazing Rob Johnston of 520R Podcasting. And before we leave, I will leave you with this quote by Brene Brown. Because true belonging only happens when we present our authentic, imperfect selves to the world. Our sense of belonging can never be greater than our level of self-acceptance. Be well, dig deep, seek joy, keep in touch. This is Nurse Keith saying adios till next time from beautiful Santa Fe, New Mexico. And the wonderful Sarah Weaver is saying arrivederci from
Fort Wayne, Indiana.
All right. Thank you, Sarah. Thanks to everyone for listening. And we will, of course, catch you on the proverbial flip side.